I almost picture it like the kid in the class that finishes the test before everybody else and walks out and everybody looks around like, wow, how'd they finish that so fast? Can we take that same analogy with a new writer who kind of says, you know what, I just want to get my work out there. I don't really need all these drafts. I know this is good.
Right. You know, it's possible. Someone might be a savant of screenwriting and able to do it. Every great screenwriter that I've seen, and the ones who get all the awards, they always say that it's taken them 30, 40 drafts. There's a one of the most powerful showrunners in television history, and she said, and this might be an obvious thing to say, but she said, you know, a lot of people say they want my life, but they're not willing to put in the hours and the blood, sweat, and tears. I have another friend who's a top female showrunner, and I know the hours that she works, and it's not a 40-hour week. Sometimes it's an 80-hour week. She loves her job, and on weekends sometimes she'll be there till midnight on a Friday, and Saturday working, you know, 8 to 12 hours, and then the weekdays. So I think, you know, look, Mozart, I think, wrote his, you know, amazing compositions, and he was somewhat of a savant. So I think it is possible, but I think something that gets in the way is, I understand the enthusiasm and excitement to want to get your script out there, but there can be maybe either naivete or hubris. And I've noticed there are times when the writer's more, and it could be the same with an actor, that they're more focused on the end result. And I know for me, as a producer and executive, I'm focused on the end result. There's nothing I want more than a movie to get made. It is the greatest high after you've gone through all this work and seeing it come to fruition and seeing the set designer create the sets and your actors, you know, actually performing the lines and the scenes. But if you look at every wonderful writer, director, filmmaker, actor, the trajectory of their careers, they started out like doing little bit parts in movies that you never would have thought they would wind up one day getting an Oscar. So it's that each step is a part of the process of the journey. I used to say whether like it's someone like Catherine Bigelow, you know, when she started out, or Patty Jenkins, for example, when Patty did Monster, and I think she had gone to AFI, she just kept doing good work. These are people who just kept doing good work. I don't think that, you know, Patty Jenkins thought when she was at AFI, oh, I'm going to do an indie film called Monster and get an Oscar for the leading actress, and I'm then going to go and do Wonder Woman, superhero, and be the first woman to you know, break all box office records as a director. Barry Jenkins, when he did Moonlight, I don't think he was doing it because he thought, oh, I'm going to get an Oscar. I think he was compelled to tell a story, and he told it beautifully, and it affected and resonated, you know, with so many people. So I think the most important thing for writers, directors, actors is to stay committed to the craft and just doing the best work that you can, and surround yourself with people who can give you really constructive feedback, even if it's not always what you want to hear. But to be open to feedback that can be constructive and make you a better writer.
Do you think that's a factor of age? Do you think younger people really want to rush through it, or it's not about that? It could vary. In my experience, it's not about that, because I know older writers who, you know, they feel like time's not on their side, so that they actually, in some ways, can be in more of a rush than younger writers. That's true, yeah. When you see a writer that you know that they do have talent, you can see that it just maybe needs a little more refining, and you need to slow them down, what are some of the things that you do?
First of all, I don't like to ever feel that I'm in the position to like slow someone down. Most of what I do is just ask questions. If in the script there are plot aspects or character behavior that's not clear to me or confusing or inconsistent, I'll just ask the question. And I always tell the writer that they never to feel compelled to agree with me. It's not a dictatorial thing, but it is for the purpose of, I feel I'm a pretty good barometer of how other executives are going to respond to material. And if it's not clear to me, then there's a good chance that it might not be clear to someone else. So they don't have to, I never feel like I want to impose something to be done a certain way, but I will raise a question, or I'll say, I feel that this dialogue, it doesn't feel authentic to me. It feels like there's an agenda, the writer has an agenda that you want the character to say this, but I think if we're really looking in the scene and a daughter is responding to her mother, how might she really respond? And I'll ask the writer to go back and kind of try and find the truth rather than the written agenda, if that makes sense. So I think it's really more about asking questions and pointing out areas that can be improved rather than slow down. I'm like, if you think it's ready to go and you're happy with it and you don't agree, then by all means, you should pursue that. But I think a lot of times there can be a tendency to take something out too hastily.
And do you think people are aware of that, how damaging that can be? Because if they get consistent coverage, it just kind of like labels that one project or even their name as not ready, or?
Yeah, and I'm getting, let's say, because here's the thing, is so you have, a lot of people, writers will be focused on networking, which is great. Networking is important. Let's say you meet someone, it's a producer, and they say, great, send me your script, and it's not very good. You have a frozen moment in time to have that, capture that person's attention. And if they don't respond to it, or they have an assistant who reads it and says, because a lot of times that is what happens, and says it wasn't very good, the next time you want to get something in, they might not be as inclined to read your work. You know, tell them it's the past. The writing was just not up to snuff. It was very amateurish. The person doesn't even know how to write a script, to be honest. There's certain things that there's classic formatting, but there's also certain telltale signs, such as if there's dialogue on a page that takes up half a page or almost the whole page. That's a telltale sign of, with exception, of course there are always exceptions, but that would be a sign that it's an amateur. If there's pages in a script that are so dense that it looks like a novel, that would be another sign. If there's like page after page of very dense descriptions, that will wind up in the recycle bin or trash in your computer. So.